You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Ulises Sambrano, and on behalf of Kevin Weiss, we are the hosts of Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Rays your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. We're about 416 subscribers, so we're getting up there, guys. Thank you so much for doing that for us. So also be sure to follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Locked On Rays, and email us, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Today, I am with a expansion brother, as we call each other, 1998 Locked On Diamondbacks host, Millard Thomas. Millard, how are you doing? We have to talk because we are now linked with another trade after our Luplo trade last season. Now we have the David Peralta trade. So how are you doing today, Millard?
I'm doing good. Trade deadline is upon us. You're probably doing a little bit better than me. Your team is in a winning position out here, winning moves, buyers at the deadline. Well, my team is probably going to be sellers this year.
Gotcha. Well, first, I want to thank you for taking the time. Let's get to brass tacks here. People need to know who David Peralta is. You have seen him grow into basically this cult icon in Arizona. Anything that I've read on social media and articles seems like this guy is universally loved in Arizona. And I do not know if it's because of the on-field display, the off-field community help that he does. Can you kind of take us and summarize why David Peralta seems to be just a really lovable guy that every Arizona Diamondback fan seems to be really distraught about losing him?
Yeah, because David Peralta, he's not someone that ever made the All-Star team, but to D-backs fans, he's an All-Star. With his play on the field, he's reached great heights. He's been a 30-home run guy. If you look at D-backs franchise leaderboards, David Peralta is pretty much top 5 in every statistical category for D-backs nation. Like, this is one of the best people to ever don the Sedona Red in Arizona Diamondbacks history. He came through the minor league organization. The D-backs brought him up through his entire career, been with the D-backs 9+ years. So when you look at what he's done on the field, he's been a very good player for the D-backs, a Gold Glover, defensive player, a guy who can hit for you in the middle of your lineup, someone that could really great RBI producer, someone that you trust with runners in scoring position in those clutch situations, in high leverage moments. You know David Peralta is going to come through for you. But like you mentioned, also off the field, you won't find one story of anyone ever having a negative reaction with David Peralta. I know people right now, anyone who's ever worked for the D-backs organization, they're right now sending their stories and their messages to David Peralta about all their great interactions that they've ever had with him throughout their time maybe working with David Peralta, because he's that kind of guy. He's a high-value, high-character guy, and you see it in those post-game videos that they were posting last year, him and Eduardo Escobar after Diamondbacks wins. Even though the D-backs are not a very good team, you saw David Peralta, Eduardo Escobar rallying all the guys together, doing dance videos, having fun, making people smile. And that's what David Peralta always did. Whenever he played the game, always had a smile on his face, always brought that energy to the ballpark every day. And that's what you want as a fan. You want the players that enjoy the game as much as you enjoy watch them play and play the sport. So for David Peralta to live up to a certain level of expectation on the field and off the field, be a great community guy, be a great positive leader in the locker room, and be a great player that can come through for you in those big moments at the plate, he's someone that's going to be surely missed by Diamondbacks Nation. And I think the Rays got a good one here. And for the D-backs, the return, I'm not loving that 18-year rookie ball catcher for a franchise icon like David Peralta.
Yeah, it seems to me that I love the trade, which should obviously, in a Rays perspective, tell you, maybe the Diamondbacks would not be so happy. I mean, again, Cerda could become, a great ball player, but it is kind of a lottery ticket when you're 19, you're playing in the Florida Complex League, you have a handful of professional games. So obviously it does seem a little bit light, but I guess that's what the market dictated David Peralta was worth, and we will take it. Rays Nation is very happy to have him. For those that don't know, this is a guy who in 2022 is hitting 248, a 315 on base, a 457 slugging, 772 OPS. He destroys righty pitching, not so much lefties anymore. when you see that discrepancy between what he does against righties and what he doesn't do against lefties, has he just become a completely a platoon kind of guy for the Diamondbacks this year?
Not completely, but definitely more than he probably did in the past, because Torey Lovullo absolutely loves playing the cross matchups. Like the days he can, Torey Lovullo will put all righties versus lefties or all lefties versus righties. Like he's very old school in that way. So there's definitely a lot of days where David Peralta is sitting against lefties, but I wouldn't say he's exclusively platoon, because he's still a guy that you trust no matter if it's a righty or lefty on the mound. Like I said, in those high leverage moments in the clutch situations, he is someone that you're still going to trust in that 8th inning or later on. And still defensively from that standpoint, he's still someone that you want to have out in the outfield, in left field, because you know he's not going to make any mistakes there. He's not the most athletic player, but what he makes up for with his, maybe average athleticism, he makes up for it with his IQ. Very smart defensive outfielder out there. He can get to pretty much all the balls. Pretty solid arm as well. So David Peralta, I think, he's not a complete platoon player anymore. I mean, he's not going to be a complete platoon player, but he's not someone that's going to be an everyday player for you. If you're the Tampa Bay Rays, you are going to play him mostly against right-handed pitching, but that doesn't mean you can't play him against lefties, because he still brings other aspects to his game on the days he's playing against lefties.
I do like the fact that you are mentioning the outfield play, because I see that he's rated 80 in the 88th percentile for outs above average, 62nd percentile in outfielder jump. So, I mean, he is a Gold Glove winner, like you said. And, I can wax poetic about him too, even though he is just a Ray, has just been a Ray for one game, going 1 for 4. Because there's something that we call the Venezuelan bump in Locked On Rays. Anytime that there's a Venezuelan born player, I always give him the bump. So David Peralta, Freight Train. By the way, where did the Freight Train, where did that nickname come from?
That's a good question. I've actually never done the research on why he's called the Freight Train, but it is a fun nickname. And whenever he hits bombs or long doubles in the gap, the social media team is going to be like, oh, Freight Train off the tracks and everything like that. We're choo-chooing to the next station. And it's especially fun when you're playing like New York teams, like the Yankees or the Mets, and they got the subways out there. So you're going to do a lot of Freight Train related puns when he's killing those New York teams, because we know probably going to be talking later about how a team in your division is loading up right now for the postseason.
Yeah, no, and certainly, I think. But before we kind of move on a little bit, I just want to say it's nice to see moves happen when the offense needed some help. I mean, the Rays offense has just been kind of in a taciturn state, mostly because of injuries, and they needed somebody who can step up and provide some run production. I mean, this is a guy, a career 803 OPS guy. He has 12 bombs this year. It seems like he is hitting the ball hard still. He's in the 78th percentile in hard hit percentage. So you're going to get some production of him. They already used him in batting fifth, which is his best spot in the lineup. He's actually, when he's put in the fifth spot, he hits 274 with a 331 on base, a 479 slugging, 810 OPS. So this is a guy that now you can slot right in there in the middle of the action, and should be a lot of fun to watch play. Now, what is also fun, Millard, is eating some Built Bars. I love me some Built Bars, and they're so fun, and they've done it again, okay? Let me introduce you to our new favorite, Cookie Dough Chunk Puffs. Have light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of actually making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. So what you have to do is go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you get 15% off your order today. So again, go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you get 15% off your order at built.com. Well, Millard, David Peralta for Cerda, fine. We've gone through it. How about the next moves for the Diamondbacks? Are you foreseeing in the next few hours any other big names being moved off the Diamondbacks roster, or do you think the Peralta one was the top name to go, and now that that's out of here, the Diamondbacks are done?
Yeah, I mean, I did a pod on Friday just power ranking the D-backs players I thought were most likely to be traded. And David Peralta was number one on that list just because he made the most sense. He was a guy who was going to be potential rental for somebody, going to be a free agent this offseason, not making a ton of money, around like $8 million. So it was going to be pretty affordable for someone as well. So he seemed to be the most likely candidate to be moved, a veteran that could definitely help a contender like Tampa Bay. But I wouldn't be surprised if the D-backs move some other players. I think Madison Bumgarner could be someone that other teams are interested in. Of course, he's someone that's been one of the greatest postseason pitchers of the last 20 years, right? Since 2000, he's basically one of the most clutch, elite, big game pitchers when you get to the postseason. We've seen what he's done in the World Series, like a 3-time World Series champion. So we know what he does in the big games. The thing is, he's a little bit older. The start to his D-backs tenure, the first couple of years were really bad, but thankfully we got Brent Strom to help turn him around. But Madison Bumgarner still owed $60 million over the last 3 years, so that could be a big holdup for someone. Christian Walker, I don't think he's going to be moved, but I think he's going to be someone that gets a lot of calls about, because he's someone that is still arbitration eligible for the next couple of years. So he's old and he's got over 20 home runs. So he's a cheap guy, going to be around an 800 OPS and hit you 30 plus home runs in a season. He's someone that teams are going to want. And the D-backs got guys like Mark Melancon or Ian Kennedy, back end relievers who have had a lot of experience in the closing role. So I think maybe teams will want those pitchers as well, potentially. And maybe even a guy like Jordan Luplow, a former friend of Tampa Bay, because he's still a very good platoon player. Double-digit home runs this year, can come in pinch hit situations and still do good in that area. Still pretty good defensive player. And the D-backs need to unclog some of their outfield spots because they got some really young guys like Alek Thomas, Corbin Carroll, the number 2 prospect in baseball. He's on the precipice of being called up. So I think the D-backs want to clear some outfield spots, and maybe Jordan Luplow is one of those guys as well. So for teams that are just looking to improve their team around the margins, not get that big splash, not get the Juan Sotos of the world, but just wants to do, like another Dave Peralta type trade, and maybe you're missing a back-end rotation member, a reliever, or just a platoon at bat. I think teams are going to be calling the D-backs to help fill out the edges on their team if they think they just need a little bit more for their playoff run.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, and Walker was definitely one of the names that we had highlighted in Locked On Rays, kind of thinking, okay, what is a controllable guy? Evan Klosky, the sports director for WTSP, he really wanted Walker to wear a Rays jersey, so I could see him being moved. Certainly in that power rankings of Diamondbacks players. Now, a lot of action. We are recording this on Monday evening, Monday at 6 p.m. So a lot of things have happened today, Millard. Has there been one big name out that you were like, what? That is happening? What kind of, how would you do a power ranking of the trades that we have seen go down today?
Yeah, I mean, probably the most surprising one was the Josh Hader trade. I think probably the one that might make the biggest impact is actually the Frankie Montas trade to the Yankees. But I think the most surprising one was the Josh Hader one, just because the Brewers, and when you look at it from their perspective, they lead their division right now. They're in first place comfortably. Like, the Cardinals have fallen back to the pack. Right now, the Cardinals, I don't even think, own a playoff spot at the time of us recording. So it's like you're trading one of the most established closers in the game for a package. It just didn't feel like it was the perfect time for the Brewers to do that. There's been rumblings about they don't want to pay Josh Hader, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But I do like the package that they got back, because when I look at it from the Padres' perspective, I feel like they did give up kind of a lot for Josh Hader, because they gave up Taylor Rogers, who was their closer this year. I feel like he's basically the middleman's Josh Hader. Like, he's a big strikeout artist as well. They gave up Dinelson Lamet, who I know has struggled with injuries the last couple of years, but that's still a pretty good dart throw to do for someone who was a Cy Young candidate just a couple years ago. And then they got back a couple one pitching prospect and an outfield prospect as well. So I look at it from the Brewers' perspective, like, I feel like you got a lot of good stuff for a pretty elite closer you're probably not willing to pay. Like, even some of Josh Hader's numbers, I feel like maybe he's a little bit overrated, because he's got a 4-something ERA this year because he's had a terrible month. Back a couple years ago, his ERA was like around a 3.8. So 2 of the last 3 years, he hasn't been like completely dominant. He strikes out people at an unbelievable rate, but in terms of run prevention, is he that elite of a closer? So from the Brewers' perspective, even though in terms of the name you're giving up, it feels like, why are you doing this if you're a first place team? But in terms of the package that the Brewers got back, I think they might have actually won that trade against the Padres. I'm not too sure. I'm not convinced that the Padres actually won that deal. I feel like the Padres might have given up a lot for Josh Hader.
That's certainly a possibility, because I think from the Brewers' perspective, I understand what the Brewers front office is trying to do, and they even came out with like a big paragraph statement to their fans on why they're doing it. They want to have as many possibilities I think that the quote was, to get as many bites of the apple as possible. That is basically what the Rays have been saying since 2018. We have to be thinking about not only the short term, but the long term. The more times you get to the postseason, then it's a crapshoot. Just get to the postseason somehow, and then it's just a luck of the draw. I mean, you can see what happened with the Nationals. You can see what happened with the Braves. It's not necessarily the best big team that gets to the World Series. So
yeah,
that's what they're doing. I understand that, but man, a guy like Josh Hader can definitely shorten out a game. And in the playoffs, my goodness, when you only have to cover, instead of 9 innings, now you only have to cover 7, which the Brewers had with Devin Williams and Hader. Now you take that guy out of there. Oof. I mean, it's a head scratcher, at least for the short term, for the Brewers. But what about another move? Was there another move that kind of, piqued your interest?
Yeah, well, I was also going to say, I also just think it depends on how you value closers. If you think they're that much of a difference maker, because I don't know, I look at like that Red Sox trade for Craig Kimbrell. They won it in 2018 with Craig Kimbrell on the roster, but he almost blew a lot of those games during those postseason runs. I don't know if there's really been a closer since like Mariano Rivera, where you're like, okay, this guy's actually changing life for me in my franchise. So I don't know if like modern day closers, I just feel like closers are like kind of easier positions to go and fill that void. Like if you can find a pretty good reliever, you could probably make him your closer and then save games that way. Like I feel like there's a bunch of relievers year after year that are coming up through the system that are throwing 95 to 100 miles an hour. They could just convert to a closer and just wipe away guys. So I feel like putting a ton of investment in a closer might not be the smartest move anymore. But another move to answer your question, the Frankie Montes move. I know you might want to talk about the Jose Siri move, but the Frankie Montes move, because the Yankees rotation has already been one of the best in baseball this year. They already have like 4 or 5 guys with like a 3.5 sub ERA. And so to add Frankie Montes to be like your number 2 or number 3 starter with Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Montgomery, because we know Luis Severino, he deals with a lot of injuries. We don't know how he's going to be, if he's going to be healthy for the postseason. So Frankie Montes to be more than just insurance, an actual dude that you're going to throw in at that number 2, number 3 spot in your rotation of the New York Yankees, like that's pretty good. And they got back another reliever as well in that trade as well, with some closing experience, because we know Michael King is going to be out the rest of the year. So that Trevino is going to be supplement Michael King in that back in that bullpen for the Yankees. So from the Yankees perspective, like they've been wheeling and dealing. They've been the most aggressive team around this deadline, getting Benintendi, now this Montes deal, and then they pulled off another deal as well, I think, today. So the Yankees are making moves. And from the Rays perspective, like we've seen the Rays now make a couple moves for outfielders. Like, how are you feeling as a Rays fan seeing the Yankees load up in your division?
I gotta tell you, when it's a dark day when the Red Sox and the Yankees not only have to spend money to be good, now they're actually using their brains. And so now that's scarier, because usually they had just been pilfering money, and you can't battle with that. But all right, at least they're not that smart. Now their front office is like, you know what the Rays are doing? That's pretty good. We have the wallet to back it up. So why don't we just become the East Coast Dodgers? Because that's essentially what they are. So now the Yankees, they looked at their roster in the offseason and they did an overhaul. Let's focus on defense. Let's focus on not making silly mistakes. Let's focus on the pitching, and it has worked out beautifully. I mean, also they've had a lot of help with, I believe, at one point they had 89 starts and 5 guys had done 82 starts. So basically, like, no injuries at all from their starting rotation. So that has helped them. But yeah, the Frankie Montas, the Benintendi move. If they can sort out Trevino and kind of make him a high leverage guy, it's been a really tough Yankee team to face. I think the Rays are actually 3-6. in the 9 season games that they've faced. But the Rays have been injured, and also the games have all. I think out of the 9 games, 6 games have been 2 runs or less. But again, they don't give out participation trophies, even if it's 2 runs or less. You've got to get the W. So hopefully, when the Rays get a little bit healthier, that the Frankie Montas and the Trevinos and the Benintendes won't really move that needle that much. But it's definitely worrying to see the team that's already ahead in the division by double digits still aim to get much, much better.
Yeah. I mean, the division is crazy. Are you pro with what the Red Sox are doing, though? Do you actually think what they're doing is smart with how they're treating their players and maybe moving off them for packages and stuff like that? I know that's your guy up there in the GM spot.
Yeah, Chaim, we still like him. I think yes, last year kind of caught them by surprise, their success, and so I think they have to retool a little bit. I think they might have to become a little bit younger, but I don't know, man. I think there's something happening when you see what happened that week, that whole week with the Red Sox defense. And that was just a blank show. Man, you got to do something. I don't know if it's overhauling everybody, but I mean, JD Martinez could be on the block. Christian Vasquez could be on the block. They definitely said no Bogarts is available. So I guess Red Sox Nation has that to hang their hat on. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to retool. And when you're the Red Sox, again, you have now smarts in the front office. You have the wallet. Just because you sell on August 2nd of 2022, that doesn't mean that in 2023 you're rebuilding. No, like now you're a contender again because you did moves in the offseason. You got money to get some good guys from the free agency. So I don't really see them, if they sell, I don't think it's like let's watch. They become the Detroit Tigers. Like that's not going to happen with the Red Sox. But they do have some interesting pieces. I mean, Christian Vasquez, man, he's an interesting catcher, and I think he would be a really good get for a lot of teams. That's for sure. I think he was maybe a good guy to get if the Rays hadn't gone for Christian Betancourt. But I think the Rays, maybe the interdivisional traits are not going to happen this much late in the season. But man, I'm excited. I think in the next last minutes that we have together, I kind of want to talk big picture. What else do you think that could be the next big domino? Is it a Juan Soto? We obviously are not going to get Shohei Ohtani be moved, as the Angels said today that they're not going to be offering him up. But is Juan Soto a Dodger? Is Juan Soto a Padre? Or is Juan Soto a Yankee? What's going on?
Well, can I actually throw it back to you? I want to hear your thoughts on the other move that your team did today with the Jose Siri move. I want to hear a few thoughts on Jose Siri, because I'm not going to lie, I was a little upset when I saw that, because you guys gave up Jayden Murray to get Jose Siri. It's like when we traded David Peralta, we got an 18-year-old catcher. Like, I know Jayden Murray's got some red flags. He might be out for the year with Tommy John. Like, that's the kind of dart throw I want if I'm the D-backs. Like, he put up good stats, but now he's going to be out for the year with injury. Like, why couldn't we go for a dart throw like that instead of going after an 18-year-old rookie ball catcher? But that's just my perspective as a D-back fan. But as a Rays guy, how did you feel getting Jose Siri? Because I know his numbers are not the greatest this year, but he's still a super young guy. He's got the speed. And I saw you guys also DFA'd Brett Phillips. Now, can you explain to me why people are upset about that? Because just looking at his numbers, they didn't look too pretty, and I saw people upset that they DFA'd him.
Yeah, great question. Very timely. Look, man, I think when Jayden Murray, by the way, we had him on the show. Very, very nice, thoughtful guy. I think his numbers speak for themselves. He is a really, really good get. And you're right. When you're trading David Peralta, I would have also thought, if you're knocking on the Rays door, why are you not getting a pitcher instead of a catcher, who the Rays do not have a really good history with developing catchers in their system. So that I would also be upset as a Diamondback fan to not at least poach a single pitcher from the Rays for Peralta. Yeah. But yeah, Jayden Murray, interesting piece. Seth Johnson, amazing stuff, going to the Orioles. But of course, with the 40-man crunch that's going to happen. He has Tommy John next year. It makes sense. It's a really good piece. Now, Jose Siri coming back. Now, that's interesting because the guy has done nothing but rake in AAA. Nothing but rake. I think he has like a 1.1 OPS. I mean, he's been insane. But in the major leagues, at least this year, I think, just a 520 OPS. I think he's dancing around like 60 WRC plus. I don't think he even hits the Mendoza line. So it has been a really big struggle for him this season in the major leagues. He did have some success last year, though, in even way more limited time. So I think he had like 40 plate appearances last year. He did terrific. This year, he has 147 plate appearances, and it has been awful. So who is Jose Siri? Well, we do know that he is super fast, and apparently he's really, really good with the glove. He can track him like nobody else. He's a really good defender. So overall, you hope that the bat will ultimately play because you know that the defense and the base running will be there. Now, regarding Brett Phillips, he is a cult hero. He is a native of Tampa Bay. He grew up in Seminole, Florida. So he was basically 30 minutes away from the Trop. He used to go to the Trop as a kid. There are multiple pictures of him wearing race gear as young as 4 years old. In fact, last Saturday, I'm not even 3 days ago, I went to this game. There was a giveaway of a Devil Rays throwback basketball jersey with his name on it. Why? Because there's a picture of him as a 4-year-old with a Devil Rays basketball jersey. So they actually made a giveaway because of him, because of that jersey that he had. So he's become a cult hero, not only because of that, but obviously the 2020 World Series Game 4, he's the unlikeliest hero of all time in World Series. I will put up any World Series magical moment. Nobody can beat Brett Phillips, who hadn't had a hit in the last 20 at-bats against Kenley Jansen in a game that was topsy-turvy. Like, and then the throw goes off, and then the bobble. Randy Rosarena gets in a little tag between third and fourth. Like, it's the most unlikeliest thing to happen, and it happened to Brett Phillips. He is loved among Rays fans. He's a cult hero. But yes, if you look exactly at the Excel spreadsheet, at the Savant, at Fangraphs, the production has definitely slowed in 2022 to just a grinding halt. And so it just became untenable. And so he was designated for assignment. Maybe some team picks him up. Maybe nobody does. And then maybe he can sign again with the Rays. Who knows? But definitely wish him the best for Brett Phillips, because I think that Game 4 has given Rays fans so many good memories and so many good feelings that you kind of remember that those sort of guys forever.
Okay, that makes sense. It's one of those you remember where you were when it happened moment. So that makes more sense as to why there's such a following for Brett Phillips. I was like, looking at his baseball reference, I was like, why is so many people upset on Twitter with this guy being moved? But now that you explain it to me, it makes a little bit more sense. But I think probably next season when you guys get Kevin Kiermaier back, that outfield defensively should be pretty elite. With Kiermaier, Siri, and Rosarena, like that should be a pretty dynamic threesome that you guys have out there. So I'm pretty excited to see that.
Maybe. I mean, Kiermaier is in his last guaranteed year of his contract. So there's a buyout. So he most likely will get that buyout and become a free agent. So have the Rays said goodbye to Mike Zunino, to Kevin Kiermaier, and Brett Phillips all in the same year? That could be a reality.
That would be interesting. I wonder if you guys want to keep David Peralta, though. If you guys just look at him at a 2-month rental, or maybe at least for another season, because when the Braves trade for Eddie Rosario, like they still kept him, still kept Adam Duvall as well. So I wonder if the Rays because when you trade for these guys, they always consider them rentals, but it's like you can re-sign these players in the offseason. They don't have to walk. Just because you trade for a guy who's about to be a free agent doesn't mean they have to leave as soon as the offseason hits. So I wonder what the Rays are going to do from that perspective.
Me too. And, I hope the next 2 months are good for David Peralta and for the Rays. And I hope that that partnership, it goes so well that I can get that Venezuelan bump to him next year too, of course. Well, Millard, it has been a pleasure, of course, always linking up with our expansion team out there in the West. Now, can you tell folks where they can find your stuff?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram. Just search it up. Follow us on YouTube at Locked On Diamondbacks. And of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, all of you, for making Locked On Rays your first listen every day. Now make your second listen. Why not? Locked On Diamondbacks with Millard Thomas. He is really fun and really good. So it's also free and available on all platforms. Again, thank you all so much for subscribing and listening to us. It really means a lot. Take care.